it's discretionary with the committee whether we allow something one place that we've allowed or denied somewhere else. I think our community needs consistency. And in order to get to a place where everyone wants to have guidelines that they abide by, they have to have input into those guidelines in this half century. So if we have this discussion with a lot of forestry people, with our fire, personnel here, we talk to them about what risks do we have by just letting everything grow. Can we do some appropriate thinning? Are property owners on their small lots entitled to be safe if they want to have 10 feet around their homes, if they have a defensible fire space? It's not up to me to deny that. It's up to me, I hope, to take in the information and make people feel that they're heard. Because if you have weigh-in, I think you have buy-in. If you have buy-in, you have to have people want to participate more on committees, paying dues. All the things that might not happen if we're just saying, I don't want you to do that. That color doesn't work for me. I want you to keep your trees up. All those things that are the messages that come from this committee and have come before. So I think it's time to go into the next half century and have the open discussion with everyone.
Are there any more questions? David?
I'm not sure if it's a question, but my properties, I've had about 4 or 5 big trees blow down or fall down. I had one just started leaning and it went down. Thankfully, it was extra property, no houses were around, but they came down. It was one of those concerns that I have, and there was one that was just brought down right behind my house. It was listed on the paper because a request was made by my neighbor to have it brought down. It's like the paper said 192 feet tall. So that was what the forester or the arborist had indicated on the paper that I got, and so that was a big to-do. If that came down, that would have obliterated the house right below it immediately, and probably the house across the street. 192 feet is pretty good. My neighbor, or Ron Moline, said that's about 160,000 pounds of tree or something like that. I thought, boy, coming from that distance. So there's a lot of those kind of things, and I guess the ACC, you folks got your hands full, because one of my neighbors right down below the house next to it, a tree fell down about 1.5 years ago and fell through the roof, into the roof. So they were fortunate they were sleeping down in the lower deck, or the lower level that evening, because there were 5 branches that came right down through the roof, into the bedroom, into the bathroom, 2 into the kitchen. So anyway, there were some areas where normally people would be, and they were fortunate it came down at the time they were in bed. But those are the kinds of things, I guess, you guys would have to deal with. And how do you make the decisions about that? You want to maintain what Elizabeth's talking about. I love the trees too, but you got this other situation. So it seems like, how do you make that determination? What's the guideline for that kind of thing when people's lives are on the line?
But what makes you think our life is more important than the life of a 1,000-year-old tree?
These trees are approximately 80 years old. I think this was logged, I believe, 80
It wasn't totally logged.
Oh.
There are parts that the trees are 1,000 years old.
And all I was questioning is there seems like a balance. I mean, there's some, 2 different kinds of issues going on, and like which one predominates and who makes that decision. This is.
Do you have anything?
I think first of all, the ACC is to evaluate the request. If the tree was never requested to be removed, there's no way that the ACC would even know that they need to go and evaluate that tree.
Yes.
So it's incumbent on the residents as well to say, I've got a tree that's a problem. I mean, that's what I do with the property that I own. And so if you don't, then you're placing yourself at risk at your own peril, not at the peril of the ACC.
Okay, Gail?
Oh, no, I didn't have a question. I was just
okay, yeah,
listening
okay.
intently.
Are there any more questions? Yes.
I'd just throw out that any forest that's occupied and lived in is somewhat of a modified forest. In this area, the average fire regime is between 25 and 50 years. To have a forest fire go through a forest, wipe out some of the smaller trees, and take out a lot of the foliage. think in our community, the members would be willing to have an average forest fire go through our community. I think that proper management and limbing, selective felling of trees to prevent that sort of fire from moving through our community is important.
I certainly appreciate that. 90%, one of the things I learned, and you'll, maybe everyone knew it, 90% of fires are human caused. So
Okay.
while the forest management plan said, yes, we have a nice bunch of trees here, and probably not much risk of fire, we're in the wet side of the mountains, we have a human population that loves to have little bonfires and kids with sparklers, and, you know, it's very dangerous to me. As I say, 35 of us lost boats in a big fire in Alaska, and we don't want to see that here.
Okay. Do you have a question?
Yes.
Okay.
And this ties both of them together. The business, about 9 elected positions are up. We have 3 people going for that. Now, with N&E, that would be the job of getting people, the other 6. I mean, so that would be on your plate then, is to fill those if you're elected. Okay, just wanted to see how that would work.
Not so much fill them, put out the announcement that there are openings.
Right.
Okay,
But
Grace?
look,
Question for you, Mary, because you were on the committee last year. Didn't the ACC revise all of the rules and regulations to try to bring them up, and weren't you part of that committee?
I basically was working on the tree issue quite extensively before that. Just make it something easier to read, formatting it in a better way to make it more, user-friendly is something that was done. My suggestion is, the term even control in my synonym book says, have under your thumb, dominate, I think maybe we should just start talking cooperation. We should start talking about what kind of guidelines do people want to have as their full-time residents, not just the summer home, that we were created as, before. Yes, the guidelines look good, they're really easy to read. I don't think they meet our needs as a community of full-time residents, many with children. This is, it's a different era. And so I'd actually like to call the community to come together for, say, monthly meetings. I mean, I'm willing to put enough energy into this to try to make the change so that we become more unified. And I think that the way we become unified is that people feel heard. Let's ask them, what about colors? What defines a subdued color? I mean, I have a note from a former ACC member. She goes, I don't even think we should have colors. We're all going to argue about shades of green, and wouldn't you know, we're going after someone for a shade of green. There's bigger things here that I think that people want to be dealing with, and so let's talk about colors in a community meeting for a whole month, and then see if we can have consensus. What's the natural setting for a subdued color, and cool shades, or do we reinstate the pre-approved color list so that our absentee owners with rental houses here can just easily maintain those homes? That's the other thing I've heard complaints about. It's really hard to come to an office and then look at colors or come to an ACC. We really need to make it easier, but we need to hear people. And then I think we become a more unified community.
Linda, just clarification, when I came here, I have one of these
Yes, sir.
and 3 of these.
Yes, sir.
And I thought from what you said, I can't put these 3 in this
No,
one.
yes, you can. But if you read the instructions, I believe there's
It
an
says 1 ballot,
Yeah, and how many ballots do you have?
3.
And that's why it's really been confusing for people this year. Then you need to put that envelope in
the
a
Well,
blue envelope.
that's the way we do it for the state, so
Yes.
that's fine, but I don't know,
Yeah,
I
I know,
thought maybe I
it's,
needed
no,
to
no,
rewrite
no,
it.
that's why I'm
We
saying
are now
it's
referring to
confusing.
them as a 3-page ballot.
was
One
gonna say,
3-page
One ballot.
ballot.
One ballot, 3 pages long.
But it is.
That's what it is.
I get it.
Lucky didn't.
Nick?
The people that need adult supervision will only put one of those blue cards in that envelope. I want to ask Ann a question.
Keep going. Okay, go ahead.
Ann, first of all, thank you for running. You seem to have a lot of experience and background. But let's suppose you did get this group together, and the majority of the people didn't go along with your ideas, what would you do then?
That's the whole purpose of having communication, is that you ask for consensus, and you try to reach consensus, and when you have that, then you move forward. But it's not a top-down decision-making process.
Would you
It's
move
why I
forward or move aside?
I wouldn't be up for election for maybe another year. I mean, we're talking about an elected position. I'm talking about moving forward.
No, I'm talking about, you said that we should get the community together and get their ideas, and find out what the community wants, that's what you just said, and then have a big group discussion, and suppose you are leading this group discussion, and the majority of the people present decide that, you know what, and we don't want to go that way. Would you back off, or would you continue asking them to
Oh, I-
support you?
Truly want to hear from people, and I wouldn't even necessarily be the one that facilitates these discussions.
I asked
Nick.
you if you would back
Oh,
off. or-
Nick, I would
or-
back off. Jeez, Nick, I would back off, Nick.
Well, I asked you a question that,
But this is
don't
what
go
you've
that
asked me
route.
on Facebook, and you've sort of like been doing that.
I think you should call for a coffee first.
Yeah.
Sit down.
Coffee, I need to break
Speaking of which,
We're coming up to about 3 minutes to 9, and I think that we've pretty much exhausted everything that we can do at this point. And I want to thank all of the candidates for being here tonight, and we'll see you on the ballot.
All together.
virtually it is all